Okay, so I guess we'll start with you. How old were you at the time of the during the civil rights movement?
Me?
Yes.
I'm 65 right now, so during the civil rights movement, which started in about 1956 to about 1968, I was in junior high.
Okay.
Me?
Yes.
1965. I graduated high school in 1967
Okay.
at 18, so that puts me between 10 and 18.
Wait, are you older than Grandpa?
Yes, I am. I graduated from high school in 1964.
Okay. Your initial reaction to the civil rights movement was what and why?
I was disgusted with it. I felt like that people were created equal. That's what I'd been taught from a little girl. And I didn't see people being treated equal. You could see it was very visual on TV, where the riots and the beatings and taking those fire hoses to those 600 kids and sicking the dogs on them. And, you know, I just felt like it was disgusting treatment, not what I had learned.
Did you ever experience one of the beatings firsthand? Like you saw one?
No, I never did, but I had a friend in the 8th grade whose parents had moved up from the South, and they had been beaten for various reasons, and he used to come by. His name was Wally. It was the only Negro that we ever had, and I went to a very small school. There was 18 in my senior class, and he'd come by and play ping pong with me, and he would talk about the beatings that his parents had gotten in the South and why they moved.
Okay. Your initial reaction to the civil rights movement and why?
Difficult for me. Graduated Evergreen High School, we had one black student, Jackie. So it was hard to look at what was happening on television and relate to what was happening around us. You know, it was almost like unbelievable to watch the TV and the riots, the sit-ins, the marches, the violence that went on, and actual murders, and to listen to it. So it was kind of separate, you know, you weren't there, but you saw it, so you knew it was happening. Hard to understand that in the same country you could have two different ideas.
I'll ask the same question that I did with her. Did you ever experience like any violent, how should I put it, like...
No, I really didn't. Racism, yeah, I mean, we still had it, but most of the racism that I was associated with really was like from an older generation. You know, probably the most racist person I knew was my father, who wasn't really racist, but it was an attitude. But again, we didn't have, you know, that significant blacks here. I mean, it wasn't. When I went to work at Crown Silverback in Camas, they hired a lot of blacks, and so that was the first time I really got a chance to work with them. And pretty typical, they hired, you know, 200, and by the time everything settled down, they had about 50 that showed up every day and worked. You know, I mean, that's pretty typical when you just do a mass hiring of everybody, and then some didn't like the work, some didn't like the travel, and most of them came from Portland. And I met quite a few nice guys.
Did you ever work with any colored people?
No, just the one, that was the only one in my high school. But since I went on and in nursing school, yes, I worked with many, and they were good nurses, just as good as any white nurse.
Throughout college? No.
Oh, yes. College, I went to school with several in college, several in
Experience
nursing school.
any racial injustice?
They got treated pretty well. The only thing I will say from a nursing standpoint is that when they were making out the assignments, sometimes the black nurses were given some of the ickiest assignments, and that wasn't always fair. you didn't say a whole lot because you would get counted down too, but that was probably the only thing I ever noticed, James. It wasn't fair.
Okay. Moving on. As the Black Panther Party emerged, what were your reactions and what were the reactions from your family?
You know, I don't remember a whole lot about the Black Panther piece. I'll defer to Grandpa.
Again, you know, not living in a community that had a lot of black, you know, we didn't have a lot of Asians, we didn't have a lot of Chinese here, we didn't have a lot of Russians, Slavics, you know, really didn't. So it was kind of hard. The Black Panthers, again, was something we heard and saw on television. Again, violence is violence. Some Black Panthers struck me as violent and some didn't. But after you watch the riots and the things going on in the South, you kind of thought, you know, maybe they need to be organized.
Malcolm X was around at this time. What do you have to say about him?
Didn't know anything about Malcolm X until after he was assassinated. I mean,
Did you know anything about, like you say you knew things about him after he was assassinated. What did you find out after that?
just that he was a mover and a shaker and a very radical individual. But again, just television. So again, the separation here.
It was associated with religion.
I believe it was, yeah.
Islam religion, Malcolm X. Wasn't good. A lot of people died. A lot of Islams.
Going on to the next question, I think I'm going to move down a couple because it has to do with the Black Panther Party. Did you guys know about SNCC, SNCC, the Student Nonviolent something committee? I don't remember what the other
No,
is.
Isn't that-
I didn't.
That's, I believe, I believe that's where they started formulating ways to show they disagreed with what was going on in a nonviolent way, and that's where they started formulating some of the sit-ins and some of that type
Yep.
of thing.
That's where the I believe that's that had a lot to do with the Arkansas thing that you were talking about earlier too, with the students that weren't allowed to go. What was your opinion on that?
Opinion of where
How the governor handled things?
Oh, he was sick. He was so sick. He should not have put those dogs in there and that fire hose to get those kids. He was nuts doing that. He should have been protecting those kids.
Grandpa?
Oh, I would agree. It's, you know, I mean, it was, you know, television brought so much of that to the world and to the country. And when you see that on television, that's not make-believe, that's not a movie. That has an effect, and it had an effect on everybody. It had an effect on me. You know, to do that is, where's our country?
Okay. At the time that JFK was assassinated, where were you and what were your initial reactions?
I was going to Covington Junior High and shocked that it could even happen. I was surprised. I mean, I just didn't think that it could happen. And he was the first president that I was aware of. I mean, we knew Eisenhower, but I got to see the inaugural address in the 6th grade at Ellsworth. So it was the first one I really paid attention to. So yeah, I was shocked.
Okay, I'm gonna pause.